Chapter 2. So we're going to go through the different receptors that are found in the eye. We're going to talk about photoreceptors, bipolar cells, and the ganglion cells. But yeah, there are also these accessory organs. Eyelids. Note that eyelids are also called palpebra. They're important for protecting our eyes. Then know that conjunctiva is a mucous membrane. This lines the eyelid, covers the portion of the eyeball. And this is providing protection. Then orbicularis oculi. This muscle closes the eyelid. And levator palpebrae superioris muscle opens the eyelid. We also have eyelashes. Those are also for protection. We're going to go over how tears are produced by lacrimal apparatus, the gland. And we also have eye muscles. Here with the lacrimal apparatus, the lacrimal gland, know that these are on the lateral side of the eyes, and they're secreting tears. After they secrete the tears are going to go towards the medial side. Then the canaliculi are the little tubes, little ducts. Here in the picture, it's labeled here. Here are the two little ducts. These send the tears into the lacrimal sac. And so lacrimal sac collects the tears from the canaliculi. Then from the lacrimal sac, the tears are going to go down into the nasolacrimal duct. And so here, this duct empties the tears into the nasal cavity. In our tears, we have this antibacterial component called the lysozyme. Here are the muscles that move our eyeball. Note that the superior rectus muscle, this rotates the eye up and medially as well. Inferior rectus, this one moves the eye down and also medially. Medial rectus, this one's easier. This moves the eye medially. Lateral rectus moves the eye laterally. So that also goes with the name. Superior oblique, this one rotates the eye down and laterally. And the inferior oblique, this one moves the eye up and laterally. So here with the obliques, the direction is opposite from the name. If it's superior oblique, this one is going down and it goes laterally, and the inferior oblique is up and laterally. Versus the rectus ones, those go with the name. Superior rectus going up medially, inferior rectus going down and medially. Okay? Definitely study this slide here. Here's a picture with the different parts of the eyeball that we'll go over in more detail in the lab. The eyeball, the wall of it, has 3 layers. The outer layer, tunic is just another name for layer. The outer part is made up of the cornea and the sclera. The middle layer, also called the vascular tunic, this is made up of the choroid, which brings the blood supply. There's the ciliary body, also the iris. Then the inner layer of the eye is made by the retina. Know what this word means: accommodation, change in the shape of the lens. That occurs in order to view close objects. Okay, so know that the lens ends up becoming thicker, becoming more convex, meaning rounder, which we see in this top picture here. Here the lens becomes rounder. So this happens, more convex, when looking at close object. Versus the lens stretches, thins, which we see on the second picture, becomes flatter when focusing on distant objects. And so here the lens is able to change its shape because the ciliary muscle is actually pulling on the lens. Next, the iris. Iris controls the amount of light entering the eye. Now, iris is actually made up of connective tissue and smooth muscle. Pupil is the hole right in the center of the iris. In dim light, here are the radial muscles of the iris, which are the ones at the edge that we see on the picture on the right. These are stimulated. When they're activated, stimulated, the pupil ends up dilating. And so that's what the picture on the third picture on the bottom is showing. In dim light, the pupil dilates because the radial muscles of the iris end up becoming activated. So these help to open up the pupil. Versus in bright light, this stimulates the circular muscles, which are in the inner region that we see on this first picture. When these become activated, when they contract, the pupil instead constricts. Right, now also, know that the parasympathetic system, which is active most of our life, parasympathetic leads to the pupil to be constricted. Versus if the sympathetic nervous system becomes active in terms of stress, danger, so when this happens, the pupil dilates. So I'm going to write these here. Sympathetic nervous system, pupil dilates. Versus for the parasympathetic, pupil constricts. Know the word refraction, it just means bending of light when the light passes through different mediums of different densities. And so this happens with our eye, especially when the light goes through the lens. And here it shows that when the light goes through the lens, it ends up bending. Also, what we're actually seeing is the light that's reflected off of objects. So here the object is the tree, the light is being reflected off of it, and that's the light that passes into our eye. Also, when it passes through the eye, it goes through the lens. And when it does that, here we see the light bending. Because of this bending, what happens is that the object that's reflected onto the back of our retina ends up being upside down. Yeah, because of this refraction, so here we can put a star at the second bullet point. Image focused on the retina is upside down and also reversed left to right. Then this image is turned right side up in the visual cortex or the occipital lobe. Yeah, occipital lobe is going to turn it right side up. Some of the disorders associated with the eye. Know that with the myopia, this is also called nearsightedness, which is shown on the picture on the right side. Here, the person is born with an eyeball that's longer than normal. So when this happens, the focal point ends up being in front of the retina that we see on the picture on the right here. And so here, person with myopia, so because their eyeball is too long, they're able to see objects that are closer versus farther away. They're not able to see far away that well. So I'm going to put a note here, not able to see far away as well as other people. Versus hyperopia, so now this is the opposite. This is called farsightedness. Here the eyeball is too short and the focal point ends up being in the back of the retina. And so now this one is farsightedness, and so this is the opposite. So now the person is not able to see as well objects that are close up. Astigmatism is another disorder. So here, know that astigmatism is due to a defect in curvature of the cornea or the lens. So here what happens is some parts of the image are in focus while other parts are not. And so this can be corrected with glasses. And so here a picture on the right is showing how with astigmatism objects can end up being blurry. Alright, now let's talk about the retina and the receptors that actually pick up the light information. Know that the photoreceptor cells are the ones that are first picking up the information, the light information. So then what happens is that these photoreceptor cells are going to activate bipolar cells. And so in the picture, we're seeing here photoreceptors. We're going to go over in just a little bit how there are two types of photoreceptors, rods and cones. So the rods and cones are activating the next one, bipolar cells. By the way, the horizontal cell that's written in here, that's a type of a helper cell, a supporting cell. Then the bipolar cells activate the ganglion cells. So the ganglion cells are labeled here. Ganglion cells have very long axons. Their axons are actually what make up our optic nerve. I'm going to write that here for you. Ganglion cell axons make up the optic nerve. All right, versus horizontal and the amacrine cells, these are helper cells. Yeah, so they help to modify, integrate impulses. With the photoreceptors, know that there are the two types. The rods, they have the special pigment called rhodopsin. So here, they are activated in dim light, and they produce colorless vision, black and white vision. But they also give us peripheral vision. Versus cones, they have the pigment called iodopsin. So know that they are activated in bright light. So they give us more sharp images and color vision. Fovea centralis, that's on the back of the retina, this region contains only cones. There are three types of cones, red, green, and blue, for the different colors. And so if more than one is activated, then that gives us intermediate colors. Color blindness is if the person is missing or has the defective gene for one or more than one of these cones. Okay, so then know that the rods and the cones, or these photoreceptors, then activate the bipolar cells, which then activate the ganglion cells. And then the axons of these ganglion cells send the information to the brain. Here it just shows the picture with the rods and the cones. So they're actually named for their shape. Stereoscopic vision. This means that the vision from both of our eyes is put together, and this gives us information with distance, depth, height, width of objects. Okay, so once again, this says here results from the formation of two slightly different retinal images from the eyes. Okay, so now the ganglion cells. Well, the axons of the ganglion cells lead to the optic nerves. So the optic nerves go over to the optic chiasma where they're going to cross over. What happens is actually half of the axons that we see on the picture on the right side, half of the axons from one eye stay on the same side, but then the other half cross over. And so this happens with the other eye as well. Half of the neurons stay on the same side, the other half cross over at the optic chiasma. Then after the optic chiasma, know that it's called optic tracts. These are going to stop in the thalamus. After the thalamus, we have the optic radiations. And then finally, the information is going to go to the visual cortex or the occipital lobe. So put double stars with this one. Some of the age-related disorders. What happens is damage to hair cells as we get older. Degeneration of the nerve pathways can also occur. Know that tinnitus means buzzing, clicking sounds. Studies have shown that the issue may be in the brain and not necessarily in the ears. the cause of tinnitus. Age-related visual problems, dry eyes occur. Floaters refer to crystals that form in the vitreous humor. Loss of elasticity of the lens can occur. This can lead to decreased accommodation. No glaucoma. This is when the aqueous fluid is blocked, and this puts pressure on the retina. Cataracts. This is the clouding of the lens. And so here the lens will be replaced by an artificial lens. Macular degeneration. This is due to abnormal blood vessels that grow under the retina, and they can leak blood or fluid, causing damage to the retina. Okay. Then age-related smell and taste problems. These can be due to loss of olfactory receptors or loss of the taste cells.